Hello all, welcome to the new Simply Put series by Kalamais Academy. This is Priyanka Mahapatra, faculty at Kalamais. So today we'll be having a discussion on the newspaper dated 31st of January 2024. So the text and the context section of the Hindu newspaper was having an important article about Mahatma Gandhi that we are going to discuss. Apart from that, the explained section of the Indian Express newspaper is having two articles important from our exam point of view about the EVs and about the Rhinos. So these are the three articles that we are going to discuss today, which is displayed on your screen. So the first article is about the hybrid vehicles and why hybrid vehicles could be a cleaner solution for India than the EVs for at least next 7 to 10 years. So this article gives us a fresh perspective about the hybrid vehicles. So why this is in news? Because including India, countries everywhere, they're now pushing towards electrification. And in this article, it says that we need to embrace the hybrid vehicles for at least next 5 to 10 years on the way to full electrification. In India, Tata Motors, Mahindra and Mahindra, Hyundai Motor, they're all betting big on EVs. And coming to the current status, India's electric mobility plan is largely focused on battery EVs, that is BEVs, that is replacing the internal combustion engine vehicles. And coming to the battery option, we have only one source, that is lithium ion battery. Okay, and coming to the operation, how the hybrid vehicles operate, they have both an internal combustion engine and an onboard electric motor with the two systems working parallel to each other to provide the motive power. So coming to the main question over here, that why hybrid vehicles are a good medium term solution, because they can be less polluting. It becomes very cost effective from the ownership point of view, also very critical from a cost of ownership perspective, because owners have to spend less on oil and at the same time they can enjoy the electric vehicle, the advantages of electric vehicle. So they're a practical medium term solution for at least 5 to 10 years, and they can be very helpful for the country's decarbonization efforts also. Again, why hybrids can be a cleaner solution? Because you'll be surprised to know that hybrids, as of now, they're at least 16% less polluting than the corresponding EV. Hybrids, they produce total carbon emissions of 133 gram per kilometer, while the EV produces 158 gram per kilometer. And the petrol and the diesel vehicles, they produce 176 and 201 gram per kilometer respectively. So hybrids can be a practical solution for now. Let's now discuss the challenges in adopting EVs. We just discussed that why and how the hybrid vehicles could be a cleaner solution in the medium term, in the interim term, towards the full electrification. But at the same time, we should be aware of the challenges in adopting EVs. And we should be knowing the reasons what is stopping us in the rapid adoption of the battery electrics. First is the upfront subsidy, the overt subsidization. We all know that state subsidies can only be a trigger for the adoption of the electric vehicles. For example, in case of Norway, US, China, there are certain advantages given to the electric car owners, like they can run in the bus lanes, toll roads are given free for the electric vehicles, they are given free parking. But the case here is that much of the subsidy ends up in the hands of middle or upper class people. And middle or upper class people, they are more engaged in the buying of four-wheelers. But the lower class people, they go for the two-wheeler or the three-wheeler internal combustion engine, which are more in quantity. So this is the main problem with over subsidization. Next is the charging network. So according to World Bank, it says that we should be investing more in charging infrastructure. Why? Because they are 4 to 7 times more effective than providing upfront purchase subsidies. That is seen in case of Norway and China. No doubt Norway and China, they are providing purchase subsidies, but they are also making their sustained efforts towards expanding their public charging infrastructure. That is why there is seen a faster adoption of EVs in those countries. China, for that matter, is the leader in the number of publicly available chargers. That is 85% of the global fast chargers it accounts for. and 55% of the slow chargers. But in case of India, it is a grim case. It's a sorry state of affairs in this matter that EVs, they have crossed 1 million by mid 2022, but there are only 2000 public charging stations. And there is a unique challenge in case of India that vehicle mix is dominated by the two-wheeler and the three-wheelers more than four-wheelers. Because here there is a problem in the charging infrastructure to cater to all the vehicles. Because four-wheelers, they have varying battery sizes, they use different charging standards. So the charging network strategy has to be tweaked accordingly. And when there is a more number of two-wheeler and three-wheelers than the four-wheelers, then a lot more tweak has to be done in the charging network. Then comes the electricity source. We all know that India is heavily dependent on fossil fuels. It is still using fossil fuel generation to power their EVs. Grid is still fed largely by the coal-fired thermal plants. That means we are reducing the tailpipe emissions in the cities. We're reducing whatever emissions it is coming out of the vehicle in the cities by adopting the EVs, but we are continuing the pollution from running of the thermal plant. So here it is a contradiction over here, you can notice. At one side, we are telling to reduce the carbon emissions. That is why we are adopting the battery vehicles and we are reducing the tailpipe emissions in the cities. But on the other hand, what is the source of that? It is the fossil fuels only. We are continuously we are running the thermal plant for generation of electricity, right? And Norway in this case is an advantageous, it has an advantageous position because it uses 99% of the hydroelectric power. So here it makes sense to use the EVs. Then comes the value chain. India is entirely dependent on imports of lithium from a very small pool of countries. For example, lithium comes from ABC. This is the way to remember these countries: Chile, Argentina, Bolivia, and secondarily from Australia and China also. Again, cobalt and nickel, which are the key inputs, they are also mined in Congo and Indonesia. So India is entirely dependent on imports from a very small pool of countries here. So we need to diversify the country's dependence on lithium ion batteries in the EV mix. So these are the major challenges in adopting EVs. You must be writing in your mains answer. This becomes very, very important from your GS paper 3 perspective. Right? So these current points, these points which we discussed and the case studies of Norway, China and US, this must be written in your answer in order to get those advantage in your marks. So the second article is about the test tube rhinos. So why this is in news? Because back in 2018, there was the death of the last male of the northern white rhino species. And when there was a death of the last male, then the extinction of the northern rhino species was an inevitable outcome. But already in 2015, a group of 20 scientists from 5 continents, they had launched an expensive project to rebuild the subspecies through IVF. And last week, those scientists announced the first ever rhino pregnancy achieved by transferring a lab-made rhino embryo, that is IVF, into a surrogate mother. So here in this article, it is very, very important to know two things. First is about the rhinoceros and their status in the whole world, global status, and about the BioRescue. So here, the group of scientists which we were talking about, they are BioRescue. They are from BioRescue. So this can come in your exam, that what is BioRescue, as a one-liner question. So it is an international project which is funded by German Federal Ministry of Education and Research, and its main goal is to develop methods of assisted reproduction and stem cell research and make the seemingly impossible a reality. So this they have done already in generating an embryo for the northern white rhino. Second is knowing about the greater one-horned rhino, that is Indian rhino. Okay, this becomes very, very important from your exam point of view, from your prelims point of view. So you should be knowing all the details about the rhino because this is an important species. This has come number of times in your prelims. So it is the largest of the rhino species. There are actually 5 species available globally of the rhino, and out of that, greater one-horned rhino is the largest of the rhino species. This can be identified by a single black horn, as you can see in the figure. And among all the rhinos, only great one-horned rhino is found in India. The habitat, it is being found in the small habitats in the Indo-Nepal Tarai region, in the northern West Bengal, UP and Assam. Okay, these states are very, very important for you to remember. Again, coming to the IUCN status, it is of vulnerable status thanks to our government efforts in maintaining the population of the rhino. Then according to CITES, it is a appendix 1 species, that means it requires more attention. Then according to the Wildlife Protection Act 1972, it is a schedule 1 species and it is one of the 5 species found globally of rhino. Then we come to the other 4 species of rhino. White rhino, here you can see in this figure, which is native to northern and southern Africa. Then black rhino, here this is native to eastern and southern Africa. Okay, and Javan rhino, very important. It is lesser one-horned rhino and Sunda rhino, otherwise known as. Then comes the Sumatran rhinoceros. This is also very, very important. This is the smallest and the most endangered of the 5 rhinoceros species. This is in the status of critically endangered species. Okay, among all the species of rhino, Sumatran rhinoceros is the critically endangered species. Regionally, it is declared as extinct in India. Once it was there in the foothills of the Himalayas and northeast India, but now only a small number survive in the Java and Vietnam region. Right? So here it is very, very important to know. And about the Indian rhinoceros, we just discussed all the details. Coming to the Indian Rhino Vision 2020, it has been implemented by the government of Assam and it is supported by WWF India, International Rhino Foundation and local NGOs. And the goal here is to populate the potential rhino habitat regions, that is Manas National Park, Dibru Shikhawa Wildlife Sanctuary, Lakhawa Bura Chapori Wildlife Sanctuary, with a viable population of rhino. The main goal is to maintain the population in these wildlife sanctuary and the national park. How? Through the translocation from Kaziranga National Park and Pobitara Wildlife Sanctuary. So please write down in the comment section that where these national park and the wildlife sanctuaries are located. And here, according to this vision, Manas National Park in Assam is the first site for the translocation of the rhinos. So this translocation is to happen from the Kaziranga National Park and the Pobitara Wildlife Sanctuary. Why? Because the number there is very, very more. They have to be translocated to other national parks and wildlife sanctuaries. So translocation is the backbone of the IRV vision. Okay, that is Indian Rhino Vision 2020 program. Then we come to the third news, that is the betrayal of the very idea of the Mahatma. So why this is in news? Because this year marks the 75th anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi's assassination. That was in January 30, 1948 by a Hindu fanatic who thought the Mahatma was too soft on Muslims. Okay, he was too liberal on Muslims. So here we would be discussing about the vision of Mahatma and how the very idea of Gandhi stands challenged today by the prevailing ideological currents. So coming to the vision of Mahatma. So here, by understanding the vision of Mahatma, we would be also understanding the difference between the vision of Mahatma Gandhi and other leaders who also subscribe to Hinduism. So we are talking about the leaders like Veer Savarkar and MS Govalkar. So they are the leaders, they are the principal ideologues of the Hindu Mahasabha that later on turned to RSS and BJP. So how their views were different from Gandhiji. So here we would be delving into the debate between Hinduism and Hindutva. Hinduism was mostly prescribed or subscribed by Gandhiji, where he said that Hinduism is a very diverse religious tradition. It is more about inclusiveness. It is more about respecting other faiths. It has just, it has thus a broad spectrum of beliefs and practices. But the other leaders like Veer Savarkar and M.S. Govalkar, they believed in homogeneity. They focused on Hindu nationalism. They focused on politicization of Hinduism as a majoritarian creed. So they subscribed or they understood Hinduism as a specific political ideology. Right? So therefore, Gandhiji said that Hinduism is inspired by Anekantavada. That means truth and reality, they are perceived differently by different people. That means we are here to embrace all faiths. It is more about inclusiveness. It is more about taking the ethical perspective of Hinduism. Okay, so it is about that the truth and reality, they have to be perceived differently by different people from their own different points of view, and no single perception can constitute the complete truth. And that led him to once say that I am a Hindu, a Muslim, a Christian, a Parsi, a Jew. But these leaders, they subscribed to the political ideology. They only thought of Hinduism as a majoritarian creed. They only focused on Hindu nationalism. Again, Mahatma had a very central approach of Advaita Vedanta, that means inclusive, universal religion. They saw Hinduism as a faith that respected all other faiths. He also, Mahatma Gandhi, he was influenced by the principle of Ahimsa and Satya that we can see all through the freedom movement, right? And how he was a synthesizer of cultural belief system also. Mahatma, he was a great synthesizer, because you can see that how he synthesized these two phrases, that in the bhajan Raghupati Raghava Raja Ram, then in the other line he is saying that Ishwara Allah Tero Naam. So this is also emerged from the Vedantic belief in the oneness of all human beings who share the same Atma and therefore should be treated equally. So these were the vision of. Then coming to this age, we see the betrayal of vision of Mahatma. We see the betrayal of ideas of Hinduism which Mahatma envisioned. We can see the misuse of Hinduism as a concept to promote intolerance, to promote bigotry, in the form of communal violence, in the form of discrimination, in the form of social exclusion. We can see how certain symbols, certain rituals like saffron flags, chants, they're being used by the Hindutva groups in order to mobilize support for their ideology. And this is creating issues in the society. This is creating division in the society. This is alienating the other section of the Hindus who are not subscribing to the Hindutva views, who are believing in the oneness of all religion, oneness of all human beings. And also it is creating a sense of fear among the minorities. Again, the Hindutva proponents are also misrepresenting the Hindu history. They are presenting a distorted version of the Hindu history. They are more emphasizing upon the Hindu rule while defaming or downplaying the contribution of other religious communities. They are victimizing, they are creating a fear, a sense of victimhood among the Hindus, that the other religious communities or other religious leaders, they were there to torture the Hindus in the land of India, justifying the claims of Hindu superiority. Right? So this is all about the betrayal. This is all about the misuse of the vision of Mahatma that is happening today. Okay, so this becomes very, very important from your mains point of view. Okay, you can use these ideas in your essay writing or your GS paper 1 answer writing. Okay, and this question is very, very expected this year because this is the 75th year anniversary year of the assassination of Mahatma Gandhi. Okay, so you should be noting down these points. In fact, all the three articles are very, very important for this year prelims and mains point of view. Okay, and the short notes of this video discussion would be provided to you in our Telegram channel. Our Telegram channel is Kalam IAS Academy. The link for joining our channel will be provided in our description box. So do join our channel and get access to all the short notes and other important posts as well. Okay, and till then, goodbye, take care, happy learning.